Strategic Retail Management. Chapter 14, Supply Chain Management and Information Management. Topic: Supply Chain Management and Information Management. The supply chain in the consumer goods industry. Supply Chain Management. Efficient consumer. Supply chain management and information management, or supply chain, is presented as a strategic approach for retail companies with a focus on logistic activities. Efficient consumer response is discussed as a collaborative approach to supply chain management. Information technology is an enabler for supply chain activities. Therefore, the general principle of information management in retail companies in the logistic context are outlined. Its also approach suggests a uniform manner of communicating between links in the supply chain and a uniform set of tools involved. A supply chain management, or SCM, are the flow of product, data, money, and information throughout the entire supply chain, which start with the supplier of raw materials, run through the intermediate tiers of the processing companies, and ends with the distributor and retailers. The role of information management is crucial to supply chain performance because it provides the foundation on which supply chain processes, executive transaction, and managers make decisions. Without information management, manager cannot know what customer want, how much inventory is in stock, and when more product should be produced or shipped. Next is the supply chain in the consumer goods industry. Manufacturers were the dominant forces in the supply chain in the consumer goods. With the trend towards retail consolidation and the emergence of a large retailer, power in the supply chain has been shifting toward the retail. To stay competitive in today's marketplace, consumer goods companies are reaching across the globe to seek new customers in new markets. To stay competitive in today's marketplace, the globe seek new customer in new market in order to cater to this new customer segment. Supply chain in the consumer goods industry includes all parties directly or indirectly involved in receiving fulfilling requests. A supply chain is comprised of all business and individual contributors involving in creating a product, from raw material to finished merchandise. Example of supply chain activities include farming, refining, design, manufacturing, packaging, and transportation. A supply chain is the network of all individuals, organizations, resources, activities, and technology involved in the creation and sale of product. A supply chain encompasses everything from the delivery of source material from the supplier to the manufacturer through to its eventual delivery to the end user. The supply chain in the consumer goods industry includes all parties directly or indirectly involved in receiving and fulfilling customer requests. For example, manufacturers, suppliers, wholesalers, retailers, third parties like transporters and warehouse. So now that you have the understand the supply chain, let's discuss the three flows of supply chain. The first flow is material flow or product and related services. The first flow is one of the main elements in supply chain management. Traditionally, it is the major topic in logistics because customers expect their order to be delivered on time, reliably, and damage-free. This flow is usually unidirectional. This is only flow one direction from supplier to customer. However, in certain instances, when customer return the product, the flow occasionally goes in other direction. A typically flow of material usually begin with the raw material supplier to manufacturer to warehouse and distribution to the final. Next flow is informative flows. Comprise, for example, orders, inventory, demand, or sales data. These flows are important for replenishment and forecasting at all stages of the supply chain. Information flows comprises, these are the information to customer from customer back to supplier. This flows is bidirectional, that is, goes both direction in the supply chain. The type of information that flows between customer and suppliers include quotation, purchase order, delivery status, invoice, customer complaint, and so on. For supply chain to be successful, there has to be constant interaction between supplier and customers. In many cases, other partners like distributors, dealers, retailers, logistic service providers are involved in the information network. The last flow is the financial flows. It includes the transfer of funds or cash between the supply chain partner. For an efficient and effective supply chain, it is important that all three flows are managed properly with minimal effort. By understanding your supply chain and how product information and money flows through it, you will be in a good position to find several inefficiencies and figure out how significantly improve your business. SCM represent an effort by supplier to develop and implement supply chain that are efficient and economical as possible. Overall, supply chain management provides several opportunities for companies to improve their profit margin, and it's especially important for companies with large and The bullwhip effect. The bullwhip effect on the supply chain occurs when changes in consumer demand cause the companies in the supply chain to order more goods to meet the new demand. In supply chain management, customer, supplier, manufacturer, and salespeople all have only partial understanding of demand and direct control over only part of the supply chain, but each influence this entire chain with their forecasting inaccuracies. The bullwhip effect is a supply chain phenomenon describing how small fluctuation in demand at the retail level can cause progressively large fluctuation in demand at the wholesale distributor, manufacturer, or raw material suppliers level. The effect is named after the physics involved in cracking a whip. When the person holding the whip snap their wrist, the relatively small movement cause the whip wave patterns in increasingly amplify in a chain reaction. A simplified example of the bullwhip effects is often occurs when retailers become highly reactive to demand and in turn amplify expectation around it, which cause a domino effect along the supply chain. Suppose, for example, a retailer typically keeps 106 packs of one soda brand in stock. If it is normally sells 26 packs a day, it would order the replacement amount from the distributor. But one day, the retailer sells 76 packs and assume customer will start buying more product and respond by order 106 pack to meet this higher forecast demand. The distributor may then respond by ordering double or 206 packs from the manufacturer to ensure they do not run out. The manufacturer then produces 256 packs to be on the safe side. In the end, the increased demand has been amplified up the supply chain from 106 packs at the customer level to 250 at the manufacturer. This example is highly amplified but conveys the sense of exponentially increasing misalignment as action and reaction continue up and down the chain. The bullwhip effects also occur as a result of lower demand at the customer level and can be caused at other places. Efficient consumer response. Companies a number collaborative strategies and operating practices between retailers and suppliers that focus on fulfilling consumer needs better, faster, at less cost. Efficient consumer response is a strategic concept created by processed food distribution industry aiming to recover competitive strength. Efficient consumer response are comprises a number of collaborative strategies and operating practices between retailers and suppliers that focus fulfilling consumer needs better, faster, and at less cost. The ECR concept implies a shift from traditional push-oriented view of the supply chain that relied on pushing merchandise through the supply chain initiated and performed in anticipation of customer orders to a pull-oriented supply chain. For efficient consumer response, reengineering such as eliminating or adding business operation is performed by checking all business operation of a supply chain of companies by a criterion of whether they contribute to provide higher value to customer. This aims to provide better convenience, better product, better quality, and better selection of goods and build a win collaborative relationship among concerned. Push versus pull. These most common strategies for moving from upstream to downstream sites are push and pull strategies. Pull process in this view are triggered by consumer demand and are executed in response to consumer needs. The ECR concept implies a shift from traditional push-oriented view of the supply chain that relied on pushing merchandise through the supply chain initiated and performed in anticipated of customer orders to a pull-oriented supply. A pull strategy is when customer demand derive the entire product processes. On the other hand, a push strategy is when a product is based on a long-term customer forecast. Efficient consumer response is central to the development of concept for exploiting inter-organizational potential through the structuring and control of value chain and other range of supply side and demand side oriented concept based on the retail suppliers collaboration. It is said that whether a company carried out efficient response or not obviously decided the fate of the company, either growth and prosperity or change or out. EFC.
Good morning, everyone. I am Andrea Pichi Abarquez, and I'm going to discuss the topic under the efficient consumer response, the supply side concepts in efficient consumer response. This table shows the demand side and the supply side in ECR, and today we're going to talk about the supply side and the supply chain management. Supply side concepts in efficient consumer response. If the demand side oriented concepts focus on cooperation in marketing, the supply side oriented concepts strongly emphasize logistical issues. Supply side is an economic concept whereby increasing the supply goods leads to economic growth. The emphasis is on minimizing logistical costs such as transport costs, in particular inventory costs and costs related to asset commitment. The demand side and the supply side oriented concept related mainly to the satisfaction of demand in terms of delivering the right products to the right destinations at the right time and in the right quantities throughout the supply chain at lowest possible cost. The supply side has main areas of collaboration: the efficient administration, the efficient operating standard, and the efficient replenishment. In efficient administration, it focuses on the process between the supply chain parties, and the very important in this context are the electronic data interchanged and other technologies that enable. While in operating standards, this concept focusing on enhancing the efficiency by establishing industry-wide standards. The last area is the efficiency replenishment. The goal of the efficiency replenishment is to synchronize the manufacturer and the supplier operations with the retail sales in terms of a just-in-time pull-oriented supply chain driven by retail sales. In the context of efficiency replenishment, various concepts have been established to increase efficiency and effectiveness in the supply chain. The concept of order and delivery, inventory management, and the transport and distribution. First is the concept in order and delivery. The superordinate concept in inventory management for ECR is continuous replenishment, which implies the continuous flow of merchandise based on consumer demand. The fundamental idea in the order and delivery is to transfer the just in time concept to retail outlets and to reduce overall inventory at all stages of supply chain. The continuous replenishment system requires integrated information system that enable close to real-time transfer of sales and inventory data between retailer and the supplier. This information enables suppliers and retailers to reduce lead times in production and delivery. Under the order and delivery is the quick response. This concept had been developed to accelerate products flows in the supply chain. In textile industry, the quick response is developed to reduce replenishment lead times and is especially well suited to make markets with high volatility in demand and rapidly changing assortment. And on behalf of fashion industry, the main objective of quick response is to decrease the number of overstocks and out of stocks. In quick response, manufacturers' postponement strategy is closely linked, and this refers to the delay of product differentiation until temporarily closer to the sale of the product. Next one is the inventory management concept. Inventory management strategies is responsible for maintaining the inventory level in vendor managed inventory, buyer managed inventory, and co-managed or jointly managed inventory. The focus of attention of inventory management concept is the vendor managed inventory. The vendor is responsible for maintaining the retailer's inventory in the retailer's distribution center, and its main objective is to reduce out of stocks in the stores and inventory in the supply chain by forecasting in the supplier and shortening of supply chain. VMI requires a continuous information transfer between both parties, which is sales and inventory data, and after that, the vendors will generate the idea. Under this condition, inventories are replenished in quantities that meet the retailer's demand, reducing out of stock with minimal inventory. Next is the buyer management inventory. The buyer management inventory imply retailers maintaining the supplier's inventory. In this concept, the buyer or manufacturers is totally responsible for managing purchase orders and inventory levels for components and materials. With this, buyer or manufacturer is totally responsible for what materials are to be delivered and where. That also means that the buyer takes the responsibility with costs and risks associated with that inventory. Lastly, the jointly managed inventory. The jointly managed inventory or co-managed inventory is entail cooperation between vendor and retailer in inventory management. Jointly managed inventory is an inventory management model in which the upstream and the downstream enterprises shares the risk and the balance authority and responsibility. The last concept in efficiency replenishment is the transportation and distribution. This refers to the distribution process of the products. This includes cross-docking, which allows for stockless distribution process and transport optimization. The other one is direct store delivery, which means the merchandise is shipped directly to the outlets, and transport pooling helps to use transport capacities to the full extent. This means the loading of merchandise of several manufacturers into a single truck for shipment to one distributor. These strategies serve mainly to guarantee continuous product flows in the supply chain. And that is all for this topic.
So hi guys, I will be discuss the collaborative planning, forecasting, and replenishment or CPR. This is a concept which integrate the idea of supply side and demand concept in ECR. The concept focuses mainly on promotion processes and thus relates primarily to hello pricing strategies that in contrast to EDLP pricing strategies are usually characterized by a high demand uncertainty. So, collaborative planning, forecasting, and replenishment is an approach which aim to enhance supply chain integration by supporting assisting joint practice CPFR seek cooperative management of inventory through joint visibility and replenishment of product. Throughout the supply chain, the main goal of CPFR is to increase sales forecast accuracy by joint sales planning by manufacturing and retailer using all available data from the both parties. And the second one is enabling technologies. Supply chain management requires efficient information sharing processes between the parties and each stage at the of the value chain. In order to facilitate in an inter-organizational data exchange, electronic data interchange or EDI, and communication network at an enable instantaneous real-time information transfer such as internet, intranet, or extranet are necessary. Today, retailer need to transform their information technology capabilities for multiple reasons including to increase the company ability to respond to the evolving marketplace through enhanced speed and flexibility, to collect, analyze customer data while enhancing differentiation, to work effectively. Retailers are beginning to notice that technology role is one of an enablers, and the retailer industry faces many specific challenges related to information technology management, including customer data, transparency and tracking, global data synchronization, and PCI security compliance. Maybe many retailers have turned toward information technology sourcing as a way to control cost and improve their service delivery. The third one is information management. As the bullwhip effect demonstrate, information availability is to extremely important at the stage of supply chain. Information as also needed from customers on attitude toward the product, brand, loyalty, willingness to pay. So, information management is a cycle processes that support the organization, learning activities, identifying information needs, acquiring informations, organizing and storing informations, product and services, distributing information, and using information. And the purpose of information management is to design, develop, manage, and use information with insight and innovation. So the last one is conclusion and outlook. In the past, supplier and retailer were intent on minimizing their own logistic costs. This optimization at one stage of the supply chain often leads to additional costs at other stage, either for retailer or for supplies. Recently, more integrative views on the supply chain have evolved, which has led to supply chain management and the various concept of ECR. From this change to a more strategic views on the supply chains in term focusing on total system efficiency, efficient information processing is of central importance. Collaborative supply chain to management. And thank you.